just probably the most essential tool I use. So it is no surprise that I love dolls. I have my very own doll channel, which I've had for coming up to a year now. I do dolls and divination over there. Dolls have been an integral part of healing and my spiritual journey. Recently I had a comment from one of you lovely lot asking for a video about how I use my dolls, how I use them for soul retrieval work. I know I've shown my doll altar before, which I place tarot cards on. That has been in here. It's been in my doll room. It's back in here now, up on top of my altar again. So although I've shown it a few times on the channel, I've never really spoken about how and why I use dolls, but I've had a request now to share that. So that's what this video is. I want to tell you how and why I use dolls, why I think they're brilliant. But if you really do not like dolls but have another collection, I think some of the pointers in here are good pointers that you could possibly apply to any collection at all. Definitely some of the pointers will be there for animism, for sympathetic magic, and how to use the magic inherent within objects for healing, soul retrieval, witchcraft, and a spiritual journey. And we're going to start off by going into my doll room, so come with me. So are you ready for this? So welcome to the fantastical room that is my doll room. You can see that I have always been a massive fan of dolls. So I have vintage Barbies. I started collecting, let's just give you a bit of history first. I started collecting Barbie in the 80s. So I've been collecting dolls for a long time. The dolls then got put away for 20 years, not of my own desire, but they did. A lot of the dolls were unboxed. These are a lot of vintage Barbies that need unboxing still. I'm currently unboxing my whole collection and then adding in new ranges like Monster High. I've got Rainbow High and Shadow High dolls coming in as well. You can see there's Mermaid Maze dolls down here. I've managed to replace a lost Bradley doll collection as well. So you can see dolls have always been really massive for me. But I've brought you in here to talk about, like, how do we use them in spiritual work? Or is this just a visual collection? Yes, it is. It is a visual collection. I adore them, but there is something more than that. And there is a clue in my second channel, my doll channel, in the channel title. The channel name is Tiny Soul Whispers. And there's the key. I think if you believe in animism and that anything can hold energy and everything does hold energy, then the same goes for possessions, especially possessions that are shaped in human form. There is a voice there if you are willing to listen. There is a tiny soul whisper coming from each of these dolls. I think if you're into divination and using decks, a lot of us also feel that within our decks as well. We can feel the energy. We say that the deck has a certain type of voice, or it's quite harsh when it speaks, or it's really gentle, it's a hug deck. That's the same idea. The difference here is there is a actual form in front of us with a face. It's in a human form, and for years that's always been the case. Even the Egyptians would put dolls in to symbolize and represent helpers in the afterlife. They would build a doll because they would feel that energy was being put inside the tomb. So this idea of animism, and I suppose this is sympathetic magic, it's a representation of something that would have a voice, is very clear when it comes to dolls. And I think that's why a lot of people have such an aversion to them. It makes it more tangible that this is something with its own voice, and it can become creepy. I know, especially with vintage dolls, people get more creeped out, including me. So there is a power and a magic, I think. Even if you really dislike dolls, there is a power and a magic there. So how do we hear voices? It's all right saying, well, that there's tiny soul whispers here. How do you cultivate hearing that if that's what you want to do? And I think it's the same as anything. If you want to hear somebody speak, you formulate a relationship with them, you spend time. So I think by providing the dolls their own room, a space, by decorating the room with fairy lights, by unboxing the dolls, by coming in here and dusting the dolls, by like loving the dolls and saying, oh, this doll is so beautiful, and just generally being around the dolls as an adult, the relationship begins to form. Some of these dolls I've saved. This doll in the middle, I'm in the middle of completely revamping her, and you can see I'm buying things to build her story with. So some of these dolls I've saved, and I've listened to their little whispers about what they need. It's the same as anything. It's the same as if you like crystals. You spend time with the crystals to hear their voice, or in nature you might walk to the same tree and sit under it to hear that voice. It's the same with our tarot or oracle decks or any of our witchcraft tools. If we spend time working with them and exploring them, seeing what they will do and listening, all the time listening, that's how we hear their voice. So that's the first thing I would suggest anybody does, whether it's dolls or anything else, is to spend time with the dolls. You can see here I've got a couple of decks. I've got an oracle deck which changes, but the Rainbow Moon Tarot stays in here all the time. And I find that when I pull a tarot reading in this room, I will stay quiet first of all, and I will listen to what doll wants to come out for the day. And that doll I put out separate on the table to pull the reading, and I let the tiny soul whisper into the reading what it wants to say. Also, I research the dolls. So this is the same, like when you say work with a deity, say, some of the honouring and the relationship building is researching. And often if a doll speaks clearly to me and says they want to be part of a reading and they have a whisper to give, I will research the doll that wants to come out. And within that research, I cannot tell you how many times there has been something that has clarified a message. If you want to see that actually in action, then if you go on to my doll channel, Tiny Soul Whispers, a lot of the shorts are tarot readings. I was trying to do one a day. I'm failing miserably. Life gets in the way. My intention is to do more Tiny Soul Whisper readings over there. So go over there. At least it will let you see it in action. So that's the first way I use dolls in my witchcraft. I listen to the voice, I cultivate a relationship, I use it with divination and cards and decks, and it is absolutely spectacular and blows my socks off on repeat. Can I just point out this brand new doll's house that I got given for free, which I'll talk about in a bit. So stay tuned to the end, because I'm going to talk about dolls houses as well, and I'm also going to show you again, my tarot dollhouse altar, which I know I've shared before, but I wanted to show you how I use that as well. But first, let me take you back into my bedroom where there are more doll altars. Right, so firstly, let's go to my desk. I've recently had another rejig around my room, and some of my key dolls I'm working with at the moment, and my deity artwork that I've made for the Morrigan, and some key pieces of artwork to do with the animals I work with. They're all on here. So if we have a look at my desk, you can see that I do have a number of dolls on here, all for different reasons. And if we go over onto my writing bureau and where I do my tarot readings, again you can see different types of dolls represented. Up in the cabinet as well, there are different types of dolls. So you can see it's a big part of my spiritual practice. For you, I don't want you to let the doll bit put you off. For you, if it's crystals you've got out like this, or other types of ornament, or snow globes, or whatever it is, then do just replace what you've got in front of you with the word doll. So I mentioned in my doll room about sympathetic magic, and that the dolls for me kind of work within that remit of sympathetic magic. So sympathetic magic is basically using objects, so in this case it's dolls, that resemble something or symbolically represent something, or an object that's associated with something, either a person or an event. And it's something that we're working on, something that we want to influence, where we're trying to make a change in some way, or connect with in some way, or influence for the better in some way. So for me, sympathetic magic and dolls is where the cross point is for healing and soul reclamation, soul recovery. The question that I got asked is, how do you use dolls for soul recovery, soul reclamation? Basically, my dolls are split into two categories. There are dolls that reach out to me and say, hey, I'm part of you. I represent this bit of you, or this age of you, or you going through this experience in your past that did so much damage. I'm this part of you that needs a bit more attention. I'm this part of you that needs a hug. I am this part of you. So it's a doll that represents a part of my soul. I suppose you could say it's a bit like a Horcrux, really. It's like a little bit of my soul is living in that doll. And I think because I have this relationship with dolls, for you it could be, say, crystals or stones or whatever, but because my relationship is with toys of all sorts, and I've cultivated hearing that voice with them, I do hear it really strongly. There are some dolls that just literally scream out to me, and I know I've got to find a way of getting them, because it's one of my Horcruxes, for want of a better way of explaining it. So that's one type of doll. And it's that type of doll that I use for soul retrieval. But there is another type of doll as well that I know straight away is not part of me, but is a doll reaching out to me saying, hey, I can do this for you. You need to bring me in because I have power within me to help you do this. So some dolls are part of me, some dolls aren't part of me. Does that make sense? This all sounds really odd when I'm saying it out loud. It doesn't sound odd in my head at all. So let me show you some of these dolls I use for soul retrieval. So this huge doll, she was advertised on eBay, and the people selling her had said she was found in the attic. She was a forgotten family member's doll that had just been forgotten. Nobody wanted her, and they wanted her to go to a good home. So I just really felt that story of being forgotten and left behind in an attic, and the little bit of my soul that got triggered by that is like, this is you as a little girl, a kind of 7-year-old girl that is just being overlooked and forgotten. She came with a tiny little bit of biro drawn on her hand, obviously from being played with, which I haven't washed off. It looks like a dragonfly, and she is Eliza Dragonfly of the Red Shoes is her name, which she also told me. Can you see she's got lovely red shoes on? And I come to her when my 7-year-old child inside of me reacts to something, when she needs a hug. If I light candles around her, it's giving that bit of me, that bit of my soul that still feels incredibly injured and forgotten, a hug to say, look, I see you. You were amazing. All the things that part of my soul never got, and still has like a hole in me for those things I never received. I give it to the doll. I give her pride of place. I tell her she's beautiful. I light a candle for her. I'll pull a tarot card and we'll have a little discussion about it. I might pull a charm for her and tie it to a little bag around her wrist, or put it on her necklace. All these things that 7-year-old part of me needed, I give it to that, and in that way I heal that part of my soul. This doll here is the sibling part of me, the sibling that got ostracized and got lied about and got betrayed and got vilified for no reason. This is the doll that represents me as a sibling. This is a very wounded part of me. She actually came in a lot with 2 other dolls that represent my other 2 siblings, and the work that I've done with those 3 dolls and cards is unbelievable. It's given me answers that I couldn't have got any other way, and it's been truly magical. Oh my gosh, it's been incredible. The other 2 dolls are put away at the moment. I followed her whisper that said I need space away from them, so they're away in a cupboard at the moment. So she's another doll that's a part of me. This doll here was sent to me. This is a Blythe doll. This doll was sent to me by a beautiful subscriber, and her children chose it for me. They found her a t-shirt that says Candy on there. This is a doll that represents the bit of me now moving forward, forging real, new, wonderful stories. And this doll here represents the part of me that is a carer for my daughter, the part of me that has to meet challenges, that has to realise that my life isn't normal, that has to not allow the spiral of it shouldn't be like this to take me down. Both of these dolls are about moving forward with joy and strength. So, and I'll come to what's in her bag in a moment, but those dolls are more representative of me moving forward. And this doll here, she was the first new Barbie fashionista I bought, and I just fell in love with her. Her necklace says love, and this is the part of me that just loved people. And although sometimes that was returned with cruelty, and I had a lot of naivety to drop about people to recover, it's the acknowledgement of those parts of me that it wasn't wrong to love, even though they were the wrong people to love. It's an acknowledgement that there is a pureness of heart there, that it wasn't my fault and it's okay to love. So she gives hugs to the broken bits, and you can see she often is holding shadow cards that speak to that speak to boundary making. It's the bit of me that still wants to stay pure of heart and trusting, whilst also being queen of my own world. It seems odd that she should be holding that card as I'm talking about it, because that's her role as well. So you can see these dolls all have roles to play within sympathetic magic, but they're roles to play that because they represent different parts of my soul that from time to time do need either work or acknowledging or a hug, or sometimes a kick up the bum as well. So they're just brilliant for that. Right, let's look at the other types of dolls now. Let's call the other dolls the helper dolls. The dolls that when I saw them, I knew they weren't a part of me, but they still called to come and join the gang, or the coven, as some of you doll collectors in the witchy community like to say. She's one of the first ones I got. Now, when I went no contact with my family, I felt so dissociated and so untethered and so floaty, because all my roots were then ripped away, that I found grounding in an amazing place. I found grounding in the moon. As long as I knew where the moon was in the sky, what phase of the moon it was, I felt completely grounded. It was as if nature and the moon and the earth reached out and said, "No, baby girl, we've got you now, stay with us." So you can see she's with a moonstone. She's got a little moon on her forehead. She's my little moon doll. And I've got my moon deck next to it. She reminds me to do my moon practice, to check on the moon. She reminds me to give that ungrounded part of myself acknowledgement, to remind myself I am grounded. I have my own truth in that story of my past. There are still roots there It's just other people aren't growing in the garden with me anymore. So she spoke to me about the moon. She isn't a part of me, but she has a role to do. This little doll here is one of the newest ones. Some of you will know that I am having a battle with food addiction, and I went out shopping around the charity shops, and I just put out a plea to the universe and said, I need a doll to be able to support me and work with magical workings to help me get my health back, to lose weight, to stop using food instead of healthier mechanisms. And I just said, universe, send me a doll that can help me battle carbs. And I found a pasta doll. Look at her hat. I walked into the first charity shop and she was 10 pence on the shelf, and I thought, oh, it's a pasta doll, which is so funny. But she was just there. I'd literally just put the plea out, and I walked into the shop and there she was. So she's out currently because we are battling that together. So is she the part of me that got taught to eat as a little girl and got punished if I didn't? No, she's not. She doesn't feel like part of me. She feels like a helper doll. The same with this doll here, one of my first Mycene Barbies that I found. She is Glamour Magic doll. She is a doll that has arrived to say, hey, beautiful, let's do this. And the same with this doll. This is my darker side doll. Although my daughter this morning on the school run, I tried to be mean to her, and she said to me, oh mum, that's just so cringe. Don't try and embrace your dark side because you just don't have one. So I don't have one. So she brings that kind of gothy, midnight, dark queen energy into my soul. She helps me with that. So what have we got so far in our helper dolls? We've got moon work, so specific spiritual practices, like glamour magic, moon work. We've got helper dolls that can help you with issues like addiction. We've got dolls that can try and encourage you to develop other sides of your personality. Also in here, let me pull this down. In here we have protection dolls. So in here, this doll is my main protection doll. When I was doing the spell work with the 3 sibling dolls, these dolls were part of it, just to protect energy coming back into my space. So I have dolls specifically for protection as well. There are other toys. It's not just dolls, it's toys as well. I've got dolls that represent different seasons on my altar. This doll as well represents part of me as well. So some of these are protection dolls. Other jobs, I've got a jewellery charming doll over here. So that doll charms all my jewellery and puts intent into jewellery. So there are lots of different jobs you can give. Over here on the wall here, in their very own swinging chair, which I made out of a very cheap bird feeder that I bought, is Blue Boy, who is a childhood doll that I tracked back down with their very own Bagpuss toy. Blue Boy was my doll that I had as a child that got thrown away. Bagpuss was my favourite childhood show. Blue Boy is a comfort doll, so they can bring real comfort as well. And my comfort dolls bring encouragement, they lift up, they can help the lonely part of my soul at times. And I know once when I was at the caravan and hadn't got a doll with me and I suddenly got really down and lonely, I popped down to the supermarket and bought like a £10 Barbie, and she was such a comfort. So dolls can be comfort as well. Blue Boy is just one of my very favourite dolls. Now you can see the octopus here, and you can also see the octopus in part of my artwork here. The octopus, the swan and crow feathers. Those are my 3 animal energies that I really work with in my spiritual walk. So that also can cross over into the dolls. So forgive me if you've seen this before, because I have shown this more than once on my channel. This is my altar. Now I've had this for about 1.5 years now. coming up to 2 years, and it's just been absolutely fantastic. And I mention the octopus because you can see the whole cottage is looked over by this kind of octopus doll. The octopus is my trauma warrior animal. It's an animal that loves hard. It's got 3 hearts. If it gets limbs chopped off, it can regenerate them. It can escape from tiny gaps. It is an animal that loves hard and can escape. You can see now why I call it my trauma warrior animal. And honestly, the octopus, and imagining the octopus and using magic around octopus energy, saved me in some really horrific situations. So working with animal energy is intense and essential for me. So that's why she is on top of the cottage. You can already see there is a protective force and a tie-in with animal spirits, and that's why I love the Enchantimals dolls, which I don't know as you can get them everywhere anymore. Let me show you what the Enchantimals look like to buy, because I've recently found this fox Enchantimal. So each doll comes with its own little animal, so she's still to be unboxed. So this altar is a mix of Enchantimals dolls and Monster High dolls, and there are some Novi Star alien dolls as well, which are all new additions. But in amongst that, there's other objects. There's like perfume bottles, Eiffel Tower perfume bottle. There's old toys. There's badges given to me by ex-boyfriends. There's My Little Pony. There are snow globes. There's a little deck down here under here, a let go deck, charms hanging from here. And this altar is a mishmash because it's not only bringing in animal spirit energy, but it is telling a story. And if we think back to being a kid, if you ever played with your toys or dolls, it was all to do with storytelling. You would make believe, you would possibly play house, you would story tell, and it is no different as an adult trying to heal or trying to develop a spiritual practice. You can tell stories, or you can let go of stories, or you can understand stories, like make sense of things that you've gone through laying out dolls like this. You can build a spell like this of this is where I came from, this is where I want to go, this is where my energy is going. You can build pathways. This is a portal to any type of magic you can think of. So I've got animal magic, I've also got deity work. Here is a swan doll with a swan, that's for Bridget. I have a winged messenger doll here. That symbolises for me the strength of my Sagittarian spirit mixed with the Moria. This doll here is the one doll on here that is a representation of me. Her name is incredibly important. I have got dolls that represent other people in my past as well. But the main thing that happens on this altar is I tell stories. I tell stories of times I communed with the fairies. You see there are little fairies in here. There are more fairies down here. I tell stories about past relationships and how they tried to gaslight me or switch my thinking to black and white thinking, hence the zebra. I tell stories of my childhood home, of 2 sisters, one more gentle, one much more fierce and cruel, and how to break free. There are stories here of my old bedroom at home as well. There are stories about addictions developing on here, and there are stories about ways out to self-love, to use the ocean, to escape to the ocean, to invite the tiger to tea but not to fall into food addiction while you're doing it. So when I have used this altar, story is a big part of this altar, and a setup like this, especially any setup where you use a scene or a house, I think that can be fantastic for storytelling. Over the last year, I've not only used this to understand the story that I've told myself, but also to see the discrepancies with the stories that others have tried to implant in me. I've become storyless with this altar, which is an incredible place to land, because then all self-limiting stories and false stories can be dropped and you can see truth a bit more clearly. So anywhere where I felt confusion on the story, I've built another little scenario and pulled tarot cards around it. It's been really powerful. This looks like a thing of playtime childishness, but do not be fooled. This is an incredibly powerful tool for expanding beyond those limited stories that we tell ourselves or that we hold on to that others have told us. It's a tool for emptying the mind and seeing more clearly. I've used this altar for goal setting as well. Goal setting to rewrite brand new stories and to let go. That's why it is no accident that my let go deck is hiding under the bed. That's why there are other objects on here. It's because where you see the other objects, they're part of the storytelling. This does change as well. Look, you can see I've got another moonstone there. You can tell the moon has been quite impactful in my journey. So it's really powerful, and any of these rooms in the houses could become different things depending on what's important in your practice. You might not have any links to animals in your doll altar. You might not want as much story in there. It's very open, and that's the joy of it. You could put any objects with, say, just one doll and have a really amazing altar. I think my auntie used to do this with ornaments. She would, along her mantelpiece, buy different ornaments so that she could tell a story with her ornaments. So I'm just doing it with dolls. So it's nothing new, but it is seriously amazing for, like I say, healing those wounded bits of us, dropping stories we don't want anymore. It's just really fantastic for that. If you're using cards with it as well, or meditation, it can literally blow your mind. This altar has blown my mind many a time. So let's get down to some practicalities. If you want to start doing this work, whether it be dolls or with something else, what do you do? I would say, number one, make space for whatever it is you're working with, whether that just be a little box for one item, or a whole shelf, or a whole room if you've got the space. Make space. I think that's an honouring that begins to form connection. It's a message to the universe that you're allowing this, you're allowing that doorway to be opened for those tiny soul whispers to come in, that you believe in it, that anything that comes into your imagination you are going to pay attention to and give it the importance that it warrants. It's not going to be, oh, this is silly, this is childish, this is just my imagination. No, you're giving space to this. You acknowledge the magic within those little whispers that you could dismiss as just imagination, but you know that really that's a portal to really significant magic. And I think that allows then that relationship to form, and then those sympathetic magic links to begin to work. You can't expect a doll that you think is a part of your lost self to become truly activated if you are just saying, oh, this is so silly, every time you pick the doll up. That inner piece of you that needs support and help, it's going to run and hide if it hears that. Whereas if you give that doll or object space and allow it to be, allow the relationship to grow, that's when you'll see the real magic happen. So not just space, give your dolls or your items time. How do I do that? I pull tarot readings with them. I clean them. I often will dust the dolls. I research them, a bit like any deity, as I said before. Research, learning their stories, writing down their stories, giving them journals, taking them out on adventures, putting a doll in your bag and taking it out, building little bits of furniture like that little hanging chair made from like a £2 bird feeder for Blue Boy, redressing dolls. I mean, they're just so good for doing that sort of thing with washing them, brushing their hair out, restyling them, saving old dolls. It's literally like saving yourself, quite literally. So spend time with whatever you love, whether that just be pulling cards around it or just picking it up and going, this is wonderful, or cleaning it, or anything as simple as that, but spend time with it as well. If you've got another practice like charm casting or divination with oracle or tarot, use that with your doll as well. If you make altars, I like to put the dolls on the altars as well, so make sure they're included. For me, the tarot practice around my dolls, I think, has been astounding, and the altar work, like building the altar for the dolls that can tell a story that you want to impact. If you want to impact a really painful part of your life and discover what it is that's keeping you stuck, build the story on your altar of that and let the magic start to unfold. Let the doll tell you. So all the time you're listening for whispers, I think letting the whispers come in, whether that means meditating, holding your doll, putting your doll next to your bed at night and asking for messages to come in dreams, whatever it may be, listening for whispers, pulling cards with it and listening for whispers in the reading that come directly from the doll. Listening for whispers is absolutely vital. I think sometimes the proximity to other objects as well, whether it's to tell the story or that, say, two dolls together will begin to speak, like me with my 3 sibling dolls. I have got the pink doll up here on the bookshelf here, that she's about to come out and work with my pink Blythe doll. I found a pair there. So proximity to other objects can sometimes hold the key as well. So look for proximity as well. Listening for whispers of what the doll actually wants to do and who the doll is to start with. Is it part of you or is it a helper doll? I think listening for that initial, hey, this is who I am, has been vital for me. It means that I'm not just surrounded by random dolls that have got no task. Some of them in my doll room are just part of the collection, and I'm piling love into them, and they do occasionally ask to come out and to work with my tarot deck, and they have valid messages to give. But some of my dolls are either part of the story, they represent other people, they represent parts of me, or they're the helper dolls. So be aware that the dolls could have different things that they come to you for, and honour that. And I like candles around my dolls. I will sometimes redress my doll if I feel that that's an important part. I said I would come to you and show you what my Blythe Candy doll is holding. So she is holding this little bag. I bought this little bag from a haunted mine in Wales. It is full of coloured gemstones, which I am busy giving different meanings to, that she can hold from time to time when she needs to. So you can give your dolls bags that hold like stones or crystals or messages. You could write messages to them, write the message you get back as well. It's almost like a love letter to your inner children that are within you that might need support for different reasons. Your dolls might all be different ages because of that. Or it might be a future facing doll that wants you to start goal setting for the future. So use your journals. Give the doll a journal if you want to. Give them bags, give them changes of clothes that represent things to you. So symbolise the hell out of the stories that you make around the dolls. Give everything a symbolic representation of something that you're trying to do. And you can literally achieve anything then with the dolls. I think to activate the dolls as well, For me, I have no set process. I will cleanse the doll when I get it in, which just means passing it through smoke. I will then spend time with the doll. I'll wash it, I'll redress it, I'll sit and play with it until those whispers begin to come in, and then I start listening. So I think that initial, hi, this is a new doll, I'm cleansing you, I've given you a space. For me, that's my way of activating it from a toy into something magical. And I think it's that initial cleansing, that initial acknowledgement of I'm taking you seriously, and then that initial listening time. So, and I'll trial different things as well. I'll put charms out near them, or I'll put crystals out, and I'll see what resonates. I'll pull cards. Some dolls like the painted stones, and they like to be put on altars. Other dolls ask to come out when I'm doing spell work. Other dolls just love the cards. So trial different things, but all the time cleansing your doll and then telling it that you take it seriously. I think for me that there is no other ceremony that I do to turn my doll from a toy into a magical being. I'm not going to say magic at all, because they're little beings in their own right. So that's the process that I go through to acknowledge that there's something more than just a toy. And finally, let me show you 2 things that came into my life new in the last few weeks. I'm taking you back to the doll room, then to the playroom downstairs. So the first thing is this incredible 4-foot high Disney princess house. Now, this was offered to me free on a free to collect site in my local town. I'd actually sent a message about something she was selling, and when I realised it was too expensive, she offered me this for free. So it's got a kitchen down there, which has currently got some boxes in. I only literally carried this up the stairs yesterday, so this is brand new. But you can pick up dolls' houses free. Me and Tilly are going to be using this together, I'm pretty certain. It's going to be a brilliant place for my Disney dolls, because it's a Disney princess castle. Talk about being able to heal the parts of me that believed in a fairy tale and got abused instead. How absolutely fantastic is this going to be, to put stories within each room and ways to rewrite fairy tales moving forward. So dolls' houses and the setting that you build that story through does have incredible magic impact. For this one, you've got the stories from the films, all the Disney films I grew up with, plus you've got the stories of each room. Like under here there's the kitchen, brilliant for food addiction work. There's a kitchen down there that's just perfect for it. You've got a living room where like you could do family work, the place that your family comes together. You've got a bedroom that could be for dream magic or glamour magic or relationship magic. You've got an attic. Well, the attic is perfect for like secrets, shadow work, skeletons. So any sort of setting, whether that be a doll's house, an altar, or even like a shelves of a bookshelf or a mantelpiece like my auntie with her ornaments, can be brilliant for laying out a story to work with the dolls. And I take you down my stairs. Can you tell I have dolls all over my house? I try and keep it a little bit more controlled so there's not dolls everywhere. But I'm taking you into my downstairs playroom, which is also a laundry room, so forgive me. I wanted to also show you this mammoth doll's house, which I picked up for £8. £8. I wanted to bring it down because there is dragon magic. I spoke earlier that dragons have been calling out. So dragon energy, I've got 1 dragon deck now, which I can't believe. I never thought you'd ever see me working with dragons, but there's a dragon on the roof which I picked up from the charity shop. It has a Lego based seat, so I can build creations. I can literally build spells off the dragon, which I intend to do. I intend to have like a dragon landing pad up there Talk about being able to do spells about strength. And you can see I've decorated this doll's house just a little bit for spooky season, so you could even do Wheel of the Year stuff with it. Like I've got a little pumpkin there, I've got pumpkins and gourds going round the stairs, I've got Mother Mary in the corner, and Mom giving her child a cuddle. Talk about healing a part of me that feels lost. I've got a angel snow globe. I also use snow globes. Honestly, I am a real advocate of using your collections and the things you love in your magic. So I've got, just on this one altar, even though I've only had this doll's house a few weeks, I've got Mother Mary work, I've got Wheel of the Year work, I've got shadow work, I've got dragon energy. It's just the most fun, exciting but impactful way to use dolls, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune. The doll's house itself, which is higher than me, you can see I'm standing below it, was £8. Like I said, she was £2 from a charity shop. She's vintage, I've had her years. These were £3 each. She was full price. This was a gift. She's artist Barbie. She was just a few pounds second hand. It can really be done for very little money. Even if you just wanted something like this to pay homage to Mother Earth and the turning of the wheel, you could do it for that. So there you go. Settings have become a more important part of my dolls than ever before. This is a Barbie care centre, which I'm currently trying to kit out to do shadow work with. So that ambulance was specifically bought for witchcraft work, soul retrieval work. It's a care centre, it's an ambulance. The things that I'm going to build into there, I already know what I am doing. The same with this. I have a Barbie cruise ship that's back out here. This unit here had got broken in a shop. They were giving that away. I think I paid £3 for that unit. That is another thing that I'm going to build dolls into. It can really trigger creativity for your spiritual work as well. I've recently started doing artwork with bigger vintage dolls that I've bought. I'll put some pictures in here of one of the pieces that I'm currently working on, which is just having a massive impact on me in my art studio, as is this Barbie doll, which came to me broken and forgotten and sent to me by accident. Even the people selling her didn't want her back. Nobody wanted her, and she touched my soul so much. She spilled out a whole story to me, which I listened to in tears and realised she was actually a part of me. So she is getting a huge makeover, and I'm actually building a setting for her. So use your creativity with these dolls as well. Gosh, I hope that made sense. It is a subject that I'm incredibly passionate about, as you can tell, hence the second channel. And look how beautiful it looks. So that's how I use dolls for soul retrieval work in my witchcraft, and how I feel it's just probably the most essential tool I use. Dolls or your collection with witchcraft, it can be life transforming. I hope I convinced some of you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.